yeah, welcome everybody for jumping in here tonight and jumping on and being with us.
So if we haven't met before, because I have not met everyone here, my name is Monica.
And I'm Mark. And tonight we'll be taking you through how to gain strength, anxiety, and crush the overwhelm.
And you know what I really love about you guys is that you're here tonight. A lot of people never commit to the things they say that they want in life. So we really want to acknowledge you for being here, being the action takers who commit to your future. It's awesome.
And tonight we're going to break down the types of anxiety and the link between boundaries and anxiety, what they are and how to gain strength from it. We will also be covering how to crush overwhelm and how this impacts our daily lives.
And how that comes in different forms and shapes. And we'll be sharing our experiences because they're very different. Because what we found in life and the clients that work with us is once we understand what we're doing and we have an awareness around it, it means that we can change it. Because when we have no awareness of what we're doing, it's really, really hard to change it. Anyone here agrees that we have to have awareness to change it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And also there'll be some audience participation if you're all cool with that. Because when we actively participate, we learn more, we just do. And it's also a lot more fun and engaging, as you know, we don't want you guys to fall asleep on us.
And please don't do that.
No.
And we might be looking over on this side a little bit, just, you know, to keep the techie side up to date, making sure we're all good, you're with us. So we also have, for those who may not have ever been on Zoom before, there is a chat box below. So can you all please just pop in, you know, yay. So we know that everyone's got that sorted and figured that out. And we know it's working.
Let me just find my...
Awesome.
Cool, Lynn with us.
Adam,
thank you.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Let me just organise my screen as well, so I can see where everyone. I can see everything as well. Cool.
So, as again, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And we know your time is precious, and signing up and showing up for yourself is a really big thing. So we really wanted to acknowledge you for taking the time for yourself to be here tonight. Yeah.
And there won't be any sales tonight. You can't actually buy anything here, in case you're wondering what you've signed up for. Because we're going to provide you with lots of value. So you have the steps to take with you and implement them straight away.
And there will be an opportunity at the end of the class to book in a 45 to 60 minute strategy session with either of us.
Free 45-minute strategy session.
Yep, it's free. And you can take what you learned here tonight to the next level so that we can have a conversation about where you are and where you want to be and how we can help you close that gap. And that will be available for a few spaces.
And look, for some of you, that's not going to be something that you want to do, and that's okay. And for some of you, it will. For some of you who will take up the free session, we'll figure out quite quickly together how we'll make that work and whether we're a match or not a match. And however, you'll still walk away with the strategies that you need to take the next step. And some of you will love it so much that we'll talk about how we can take this even further. And either way, whatever you decide, you're going to walk away with something.
And just a few things before we start, just please put your hands up if you closed all your browsers, if you have a pen and paper close by in case you want to take any notes, and if you have a drink of some form, whether it's wine, whether it's water, whether it's tea, whether it's coffee, all good.
Whatever your choice is.
And is it okay if we go a bit deeper tonight and we might swear a little? Is everyone okay with that? We are a little bit weird and quirky. If you've been following us, you know that. So hands up if that's okay.
If you're all cool with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Awesome.
you. We can swear like, we don't swear like troopers, but they do occasionally slip out, and we are a little bit weird and quirky. So I'm going to share a screen with you. So just let me do my techie thing, see whether I can get that organised. So just bear with me, and then we can continue on. So let me see how I go here. Right. And if you can let me know. Cool. So everyone should be able to see that screen.
Just give us a thumbs up.
Sharing.
You can see, yep, fantastic.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you again for joining us. The masterclass tonight is how to find strength through anxiety and crush the overwhelm. And what we're going to be covering tonight is anxiety. What is it? How to gain strength from it?
And just the link between, like we said, the boundaries that we may or may not be setting, and how we do that, and how that links to anxiety and why, and some tips and strategies on how to ease anxiety with healthy boundaries. And there'll be a self-assessment plan and suggestions on how to say no that we will also send through to you after. So we'll be going through that quickly, some of that, some ways to say no, but we'll also send it through to you after in Messenger. So keep an eye out for that one. And there'll be some questions and answers after as well, and some key takeaways.
Yeah.
Because we learn so much more when we're sharing and when we're typing as well as thinking. So please share as much in the chat box as possible.
So, who are we? Maybe you can jump in here and take away with who we are.
So for those who don't know us, we are empowerment coaches and mentors. We are human behaviour specialists, clinical hypnotherapists, and psychotherapists is a big word. And we are also both certified relationship and mindset coaches. And we've been married for almost 18 years. And we're a blended, quirky family who are very, very passionate about human behaviour and empowering people to embrace their fears and turn it into their magic power, and just relationships in general. We geek out on that stuff. Yeah,
it's something we definitely do geek out on. We love human behaviour and how it just fascinates us. So I'd like to share a story about my first conscious awareness of anxiety. Yes,
again, sorry for jumping in. The emphasis on conscious, because we've experienced so many times experienced anxiety without even knowing what it is. So hopefully at the end, you will know the difference between the conscious and unconscious experience of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my first real conscious experience of anxiety was around maybe 8 or 9 years ago, when I had another business. And that business involved me going into businesses, and I had to work either in the reception area or whether in an office space. And there was this one particular day where I was in a medical centre. I had to do some work near the reception area. And I found myself suddenly, my heart started to race. I started to break out in a bit of a sweat. And the more I was sweating, the more my thoughts became confused. My thoughts became scattered. And I looked around and I noticed no one else was sweating. We were in an air-conditioned environment. However, I was having this mini freak out. I was experiencing anxiety. And I went out to my car and excused myself from the space I was in, went into my car, and I just sort of wiped the sweat off. And I was trying to work out what was going on, what was happening within me. I went back in to continue my work, and I started to have these inconsistent thoughts, and I started to break out in the sweat again. And I was like, I'm actually experiencing anxiety. My thoughts were getting away from me. My breathing was shallow, and I found myself in a different space. So Pop in the chat box if that any of that resonates with you, or whether you've experienced anything like that. Yeah, is that something you've experienced?
Yeah, who's ever experienced that? Hands up. Like if you have been even the slightest feeling of your heart racing, your palms sweating. Sometimes if I'm feeling like that, my mouth might go a little bit dry, and the heart's racing. Absolutely. And sometimes we can also confuse anxiety with excitement. When the heart's racing and we feel excited about something. This is definitely not the excitement part of things.
No, definitely not. And I suppose I chose to seek assistance from a coach to change this for myself. And I decided to trust that Monica would back my decision regardless of the cost, because this was something that was very important to me, and it wasn't about the money. It was something I experienced and I wanted change.
And it's not about trying to avoid challenges in life, because they are unavoidable and we really need them. We need challenges to grow. We need challenges to get resistant, resilient, and it gets very boring if we never have any challenges.
Correct.
So it's about how we move through them. Like, are you getting the supports that you need? Are you reaching out for help? Because we certainly had a lot of resistance when we first started out in this space to invest in ourselves in the beginning of our journey. Like, we had never invested in ourselves.
It was scary.
Yeah,
it was really scary.
Very scary. Not knowing, is it going to work?
Correct.
How's this going to work? Are we going to be able to pay this back? And over the last 8 years or so, we have probably invested almost over $100,000 in our personal development, coaches, mentors, programs, etc. And now it's a no-brainer for the investment and what we get back. But it certainly wasn't that at first.
And weird thoughts of, how are we going to pay for this? Can I do it? What if it doesn't work?
Yeah, and will I commit? Can I handle it?
Yeah.
And what we realized that it was really about stepping into our power, like taking charge of our lives, the learnings and tools and strategies, so that we could change our circumstance, because it wasn't all that glory back then.
No.
We were in a situation where we almost had to sell our house there at one point. And we also had a time where we had a little one where I said to Mark, I love you, honey, but I am not in love with you right now. So we had all sorts of stuff going on. So we had to change our circumstances and have a better life and gain confidence to do the things that we've never done before. And we just continue to believe in ourselves and become who we truly wanted to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we had to make sure that we found a way regardless of the fear, because money is just money. And it's important that we invest in ourselves in order to be better versions of ourselves.
Absolutely, especially when being in an office environment and breaking out in sweat, having an anxiety attack in front of people you don't know. So anxiety, it is when individuals are overwhelmed with the possibility, reality, or thought of something to come. So let me say, anxiety is your body and mind's natural defense mechanism, and of all the human emotions, is perhaps the most necessary. It is our fight or flight response, and it is designed to keep us safe. Without a normal natural ability to access anxiety, because anxiety, as we said before, is required, it's needed. Low-level anxiety is required.
Also to keep us alive and safe. And again, thank you guys for commenting in the chat box here about your experiences.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Scatters the brain, aching body, definitely. The body takes on the emotions. It does. And the thing with anxiety, it does, as Monica said, it keeps us safe, because if we weren't slightly worried if we were walking and a swarm of bees came our way, there'd be something wrong. Or nor would we be bothered by somebody coming up behind us in the dark alley, if we happen to be in that situation? So anxiety is designed to keep us safe. It just is. So when we find ourselves in danger or under threat, our mind works in conjunction with a small part of our brain called the amygdala, which is the size of a walnut. And it's to induce the unpleasant and heightened state that we call anxiety, or as we know it, anxiety. And so what types are there?
So there's different types of anxiety, and we're probably going to go into the lower level of anxiety today.
Absolutely.
So generalized anxiety, social anxiety. I'm sure who know of someone that has social anxiety that finds it really, really hard to go out in public spaces. Yeah, it's so common. Panic attacks and specific phobias and fears.
Yeah, and the reason why we're going to be looking at and focusing on the generalized low-level anxieties, the other one's a little bit more complex.
Mm-hmm.
And because we only have an hour to an hour and a half together tonight, we want to make sure we give you the value so you can walk away with some tips and strategies to better handle and understand and gain strength from low-level anxiety.
So how it shows up?
How does it show up?
Like we're sharing elevated heart rate and breathing. So sweating, sweaty palms, sweaty armpits, just the scattered thoughts and confusion. I have certainly experienced that many times, and unable to relax and sleep. Who's ever experienced when you've been so wound up and so busy that it's really hard to close down your thoughts at night and actually fall asleep? The mind is just racing.
Has anyone experienced any of those symptoms? Yeah, a couple of hands up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we all have.
And it can also create problems
monkey
with work.
mind, yeah, totally.
Yeah. That little monkey mind in the back
just never shuts up.
Yeah, we've had that going, and it just nags, and it gets us.
And we're going to be sharing some stuff around that. So thank you.
And it can even be the feeling like someone's standing on your chest.
Yes.
I know I've experienced that when I was thinking about overthinking some worry. I had this feeling of someone standing on my chest and the shortness of breath. So the symptoms are very varied, and it's something when we have the awareness, we can actually change that. So why does it show up? Why does it show up?
So a lot of it is, if we're going to the root cause of it, is the unhealed childhood wound. So what I mean by that is what we've experienced as children growing up, what we've passed down from generations from my great-great-great-grandparents that has passed down unconsciously, unknowingly to us, and what we saw, what we were around when we were growing up, our teachers, our siblings, our family, our caregivers, and we keep passing it on. If we don't stop, we pass it on to our children.
Yeah, and as we say, it only takes one person from one generation to change it for all future generations.
And that is the cool stuff that we're so passionate about, because it's so doable, and we have helped hundreds of people doing this. To change the future for our children. Absolutely,
and that's what it's about. It also shows up the lack of boundaries, and Monica's going to go deeper into that later on as well. It can even show up with implementing boundaries.
Yes, because I've shared before that when we putting in a boundary can be really scary. So to share your thoughts and your preferences, but not putting it in will also cause anxiety, because we have people walk all over us and we're not expressing what we want, our needs. And that causes a lot of anxiety, frustration, anger. So we'll go into that a bit later as well.
We absolutely will. It can also be a build-up of smaller, stressful life situations. How often have you had these small things in life that are happening, and suddenly they've just become this big thing, and then an explosion occurs, whether it be an angry outburst or maybe it's just a breakdown in tears. I know I've definitely experienced some of that, and it's very common. Some of the triggers can be the financial concerns, It could be maybe thinking about financial concerns, or maybe a conversation with a partner. Maybe you're thinking about a conversation you need to have with a colleague or your boss. Maybe it's negative thoughts.
Oh, I've had lots of that. Thinking of something and then all of a sudden this builds up and bubbles, and there I am, sweating, my heart's racing, and I can't really get the words out. So I'm bringing this on by my beliefs and my experiences from the past.
Yeah.
Just pop in the chat. Does this, is this of value? Are you learning stuff here, guys? Are you loving it? Should we keep going?
Yeah, cool. Tanya's nodding, and hey Tanya, thank you for jumping on.
Thank you. Awesome.
It can also be if you've got a social event coming up, that can bring on anxiety. Maybe it's a performance that's coming up.
Or a family event.
Maybe it's planning for a masterclass. That could also bring it on. You know, it could be anything.
Especially with Christmas coming up, a lot of people are really, really anxious around how they're going to cope with having family around.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, did you want to
yeah, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And I've shared this a lot of the time, especially in a work environment when things get hectic. I said, just brace yourself. And when you're feeling that wave coming, just get up the fucking longboard and just get on the longboard and surf the wave, because hold on. And so really building the tools and the strategies to move through it.
Yeah. I want to share another story of mine in my relationship with anxiety, because anxiety and I have got to know each other, and I've done it on purpose. And since my experience when I had my other business or our other business, I then had another experience of anxiety when I was actually in an F45 class, believe it or not. And I was on the rower, and the instructor was just pushing me, and it was like a competition day. And during that moment, after I'd been on the roll for a couple of minutes, I had what was like a panic attack. So I basically got off, and my heart was just wanting to jump out of my chest. The room seemed to just swallow me up. And it was like I wanted to escape. There was just not enough space around me, even though there was plenty of space, but I felt closed in. My thoughts just became, am I going to die? I was literally panicking about, am I going to die here? What is happening? And I then realized what was going on. I had to gather my thoughts. I had to get my breathing in check. I had to think of what I was going to do. So from that, I went into doing spin classes, and I purposely, this might sound a little nuts, but I purposely wanted to bring on anxiety because I wanted to learn how to handle it. What energy could I harness from that? What strength could I get to propel me even further, mentally and physically? And I found during the spin class, when I go really hard, and my heart would feel like I was going to jump out of the chest and I thought I was going to die, I would have to go, my thoughts. What are my thoughts for the first thing? And I would go to love. My thoughts would be, I'd go to Monica, I'd go to my children. And just shifting my thoughts took the focus off what I was experiencing. And it therefore lowered my heart rate, my breathing came down, and I went into a space of gratitude. And then from there, I went into a space of, look at all this energy I now have. I harnessed the negative energy of what I was experiencing with anxiety, and I turned that into, what else can I do with this energy now? And I used it to push forward. Everyone's got different examples of anxiety. That's just mine.
And I remember Mark coming home from his spin classes and going, first of all, I thought I was going to die, honey. My heart was beating out of my chest, and I literally thought I was having a heart attack. And then a few classes after that, when Mark's been playing with this, he was sharing how exactly what he was sharing then, that he was actually bringing it on to really challenge his thoughts and how he broke through that. So I thought that was really cool examples of how you can harness the anxiety and bring and get power from it. However, I haven't had those experiences. I've had more lower level anxiety that's been brewing over a longer period of time because of where my mind was at and me not putting in the boundaries I needed, which I will share in a moment.
So this class is about harnessing the strength from anxiety, turning it into something you can really utilize, and also about linking it with the boundaries. Now, I mentioned in the beginning about participation, group participation. And on one of my techniques which I share with, or we share with all of our clients, and some of you may have heard of box breathing.
Who's familiar with that, by the way?
Anyone's familiar with that? Yeah. Well, I've got our own version, and I found this one to be just far more beneficial in regards to relaxing you down and getting you into a space of relaxation. And it's called the 7-11 technique. So what it is, it's 7 seconds in, then 11 seconds out. And you do it times 3. So you do it 3 times. And you just cannot not be chilled or more relaxed after doing this technique. It just works. And I was just wondering, and I'm hoping you all guys, I'd love to do a small exercise with you all. And before we start this exercise, I just want to get a hands up, or even in the chat box, because I can see you better in the chat box, that we can do this exercise for you to have power over the anxiety and also to even feel more relaxed. How would that be? Is everyone all cool to do an exercise, a brief exercise? Yeah.
And we've been playing around with this a little bit. So with the different types of breathing for what works really well for us and our clients. And we just want to share that with you. This is a little experiment. And also when we're doing this, think of something that brings you slight anxiety, not like the massive triggers that you may have, something that just brings you a thought of something that you have coming up in the future, or something little. Is everyone cool with that? Hands up if they can just bring up something small.
Yeah.
For the purpose of this exercise.
Everyone's really got a few hands up. Yeah, cool. Hey, Kevin, how are you? So before we start, as Monica said, it's low-level anxiety. So if you can bring that thought up, or that occasion, that thing, because I don't know what it is, it's different for everybody. If you can bring that thing to mind of what it is for you, and it may be, upcoming conversation with maybe a colleague or a boss. Maybe it's a new date that you're going on, or maybe it's attending a new class or a meeting, whatever it is for you. So have you all got something there?
Or asserting yourself, thinking of asserting yourself, having a conversation that you haven't had before and sharing your thoughts perhaps, and you feeling that slight anxiety. So if everyone got something. Yeah,
cool. So I'm going to run you through this breathing technique, the 7-11. And it's best done if we close our eyes. So if you're all cool with this, I want you just to close your eyes down now. And I want to take in those 3 long, slow, deep breaths, starting with 7 in, 11 out, nice and slow. And again, 7 in, 11 out. And again, 7 in, 11 out. And I want you now to think of that thing where you felt a little bit anxious.
And just keep breathing. 7 in, 11 out.
Now I want you to imagine, and I want you to take yourself 15 minutes past the successful completion of that conversation or that thing for you, or the success of achieving wherever it was for you that brought on that anxiety. I want you in your mind's eye to bring up that image of yourself. I want you to notice how good you feel within your body now from the successful completion of that thing. Maybe see the smile upon your face that you've accomplished and done that thing. And how good you feel now. I want you to feel how empowered you really are and how easily you did that. I want you to make that picture of you in your mind the most perfect picture ever. I want you to turn up the brightness, turn up the contrast, and make it the most amazing picture ever. And freeze frame it and lock it in. And just when you're ready, just come back into the room with me and open up your eyes when you're ready. I just want to check in with you all. How was that?
Just put in the chat box.
You put in the chat box, or if you feel free to take yourself off mute and share with us, that'd be cool as well. Calm, strong and clear. Don't feel as tight. Awesome.
That's
good, better. I like that. Thank you. Yeah.
That's a big one for me, I think, when I do this. I don't feel as tight.
Mm.
And the more we practice this, the better we get at it. The more often we do it, we train our unconscious mind.
And remember, this is just a small technique along the journey. Yeah.
Not very peaceful. I feel like I can handle it.
Awesome.
Kevin, got to remember to use breathing techniques. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic.
So what if anxiety was showing us how to heal, how to grow, and how to evolve and give us strength? And I really think of this and all the times where I have felt and experienced feelings of being anxious. And when I've been able to unpack it after, because it's really hard when we're in it, unless we have someone guiding us and helping us, excuse me, to go through this. What these moments have taught me, the strength that I've gained from it, the awareness that I gained from it, and also remembering for next time this shows up, how I can deal with it properly and differently.
Yeah, yeah. So how to gain strength through anxiety? First of all, it becomes about awareness. What is it you're experiencing? What is it you're experiencing in your body? What's your body telling you? Become aware of what you're experiencing. The next one is your breath. Bring focus to your breathing, the 7-11 technique. And then thoughts. Now, this is probably one of the main things, your thoughts. And when you explode gratitude, love, power, belief, strength. Because like what I experienced in the spin class, when I took my thoughts to love and gratitude of my family, it just changed it instantly, just did. And the last one is reframe. Harnessing that energy, that what was negative energy that was disrupting you, and turning it into strength.
Because it is a choice how we look at the feelings of anxiety and what we choose to focus on and believe around it.
Absolutely. Because in that moment, we have that choice. And what we choose to do in that moment is up to us. We can do that.
And catching ourselves out when we are doing it as well, knowing that this is just my thoughts. It's like there are no real physical big dangers as it was many, many hundreds and thousands of years ago. There aren't as many. So most of the time it's our own thoughts that's bringing on these anxieties based on what we believe to be true.
So just checking in with everybody. How's everybody with that so far? Because I want to make sure we're going to go deeper in the next sort of section. So I just want to say, how's everybody going? Chuck in the chat box.
Thanks, Adam. Certainly less worried, anxious about going into the situation.
Awesome.
So what are your key takeaways so far, guys, from what we have shared? Please pop it in the box. What are your key takeaways or key learnings so far? Because as we are sharing, others pop up and sharing with everyone else, it's easier to remember for the group, and we can take that with us moving forward. And I find, the 7-11, Tanya, I find that really helpful when I'm going to bed at night as well, to focus on my breathing, and that kind of takes me off to sleep. Yeah.
Use gratitude,
Yes, Nick.
And love to change. Absolutely, Nick. Yeah.
Awesome.
I feel as if we've made a good start, but we'd like to get deeper in. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you're keen.
Absolutely. Being in the moment, that's a good one, Bruce, because it is about actually being in the moment. Because remember, anxiety is about being worried about something in the future that hasn't happened yet. When Zoe comes on, ask her, is this good? Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah. Beautiful.
And even naming that feeling, naming I have found it really useful to name, put a name to the feeling. So I've named mine Godzilla when I'm having this really kind of crazy thoughts. That it's me and it's part of me. But when I have some crazy name, I can say, hey, go back in your cave. I hear you. It's fine, but I kind of don't need you right now. So, and then I can have a chuckle and it sort of instantly breaks state.
There's something deep in regards to naming parts of ourselves that can actually ease whatever that part is giving us or doing for us, because it's doing something for us always. That's good. Thank you for sharing your insights there. That's really cool. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. So as we said, that was the beginning, and now going deeper into boundaries, because boundaries, they are really our rules of engagement. It's like your book that you write to teach others how to treat you and what works for you and what doesn't. And it also includes what you will do if someone crosses your boundaries. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, it's where it gets really tricky and complicated and causes anxiety, is because when we need to set a boundary, we can get anxious. And we can also get anxious, or we will get anxious if we don't set the boundaries. So just learning the how, and we can't share everything we know tonight around boundaries, because this is really one of our biggest passions that has impacted our lives the most, when we learned how to do this and also how to trust this, back ourselves when we did this, and when we got assistance around how to. Yeah. And so when we're covering up boundary blockers, now what are they? Why do we do them? And we're also going to cover how to confidently set boundaries to lessen the feeling of anxiety, and how to recognize and stop self-sabotaging behaviours before attempting to set boundaries. So just ask you a few questions, and just to check in with yourselves around boundaries. Like, when you need to draw a boundary or set a limit, do you find that when the moment comes, it sort of came out wrong? Like, does that ever happen to you? Or if you're waiting too long, so there's this build up inside and you get angry, and so you sort of blurt it out, and it's more anger and frustration than you plan. It's not like this calm, easy, which is where you want to get to. You're just saying it and that's it. It's like, comes out really wrong. Or do you avoid asking altogether for something or speaking up because you don't have the words? or you don't want to deal with the drama. People don't want to get upset, or they don't want to upset others. If you can just pop in the chat box, one, if you relate to any or all of them, who can relate to any of these?
Definitely the outburst part, when I sort of experiencing and it gives me anxiety and I want to get the boundary across.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Serene. Oh, Bruce, thanks, mate.
Yeah, and at times that could be all. And I know like what Mark's, avoiding for sure. And that's exactly what Mark used to do.
Absolutely. I used to avoid the conversation because lack of self-worth was my thing and not being good enough. So I would avoid the conversation, which then I'd go
avoid
into
conflict
at
all costs.
Because I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be loved. And
you wanted people to like you.
Yeah. So I would avoid conflict or even just having a conversation. And it's just a conversation. Now I know better through being coached on this and knowing, building up my own self-worth and understanding boundaries, how it's changed my life with anxiety.
Well, it helped you with the courage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Letting go of the fear around having to go. And I think things, Adam, definitely they're not wanting to speak up about it and avoid it. And yeah, totally. And I felt I was protecting myself by avoiding the conversation, whereas I was making myself more vulnerable.
I'm the same, Lynn. Yeah.
Totally. Thank you. So you're not alone. As you can see here, most people are feeling this way. And we still experience this too. There's always new levels. Like I was experiencing this just the other day with our daughter. And I had a moment like, oh, as a boundary, I was asking our daughter to put her socks away or something, pick them up from the floor. And I kind of just been picking them up for a while from off the floor and putting them in the wash basket. And yeah, you might think she's like almost 13, that's normal behavior. And yes, it is. But I haven't been saying anything about it. I've just been doing it, and under my breath, I kind of been mumbling, going, oh, I teach this. I should be like better at it. And there was this one night when I was a little bit tired and cranky. And I kind of just blurted out like I normally would, and just pick up his socks. And she was like, she just looked at me, because that's not normally how mum acts. And just that look just showed it all, that I was definitely holding off because one, I didn't want to upset her, because I wanted her to like me and us to continue having this great relationship that we have. And that was causing me not to say anything. And when I built it up and I built it up over weeks and weeks and weeks. And then when it came out, it was just like frustrated, and she didn't even recognize who I was.
Yeah.
So who has maybe children here who can relate, or have done this in any situation, not necessarily with children, that they don't say anything, and when they blurt it out, it just sort of comes out really wrong, and they go, oh, what did I say?
Yeah. And we're going to do our very best to teach you what we know in this masterclass. There's not enough time to share all we know here today. We want you to think about this masterclass as the first step on your evolving journey to become great at this.
We want to encourage you to continue this journey of setting healthy boundaries, whether it's with us or someone else, because your happiness and satisfaction really matters.
Absolutely.
And it's so incredibly important that you keep the momentum going, because the reason for that is when you get really, really great at this, it will change your life. Yeah,
and we will share with you at the end how you can continue your journey with us as your butt kickers, your ass kickers, giving you the support and encouragement you need to really nail this.
So I worked with a client recently, and she shared with me that she was in a relationship, and she said it was totally amazing. They never ever thought, they never had an argument. But she said, I'm not happy. I feel unsatisfied in my relationship, and I feel it must be me. So I said, well, tell me a bit about this perfect relationship and why you think that never ever fighting or never ever disagreeing, like never ever, means that it's a perfect relationship. So we did a little bit of digging in some sessions and came out that she was confusing compliance with happiness in the relationship. So she was very compliant, like they never fought because she did not assert herself. I asked her, did you ever assert yourself? Do you ever disagree or make suggestions? Like, do you ever draw a boundary, basically? And she was like, no, because I'm easy, I'm going with the flow. And I said, are you? Are you? Because no one is that going with the flow. So we were able to uncover that there was something about her not wanting to assert herself. She wanted to avoid conflict at all costs because she didn't want to be rejected. So she was confusing these two concepts of the happy relationships, but she never asserted herself. Because, like I said before, asserting ourselves can cause a lot of anxiety, but not asserting ourselves can cause a lot more.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you're someone who's conflict avoided in your own life, you know that you suffer, you could suffer from codependency or the disease to please, worried about what people pleasing or pleasing other people. You might not even be aware of what you're doing.
Well, that's usually the case. You're not really aware of it. Like you see the conflict coming and you find a way to just sideswipe it, whatever it is that you need to do. Like you do anything to avoid feeling anxious and uncomfortable. However, this is causing more anxiety and you're not being true to who you are and your needs. Like, hands up who's ever done that. They see the conflict coming and they just not say anything, or they're just getting so good at finding a way not to put their hand up. Yeah, totally. I can relate way too much. And most people do this because it's uncomfortable to assert ourselves. So what we're doing really, though, is we are abandoning ourselves. We're not being truthful about how we feel. We don't want to have these difficult conversations as we end up feeling exactly like my client felt. She couldn't really put a finger on it, whether she was in love with this person or not. But what it really truly came down to that she wasn't asserting herself. So we never ever find out. And you never really show who you truly are because people around you cannot get to know you. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset people. We don't want other people to be
Well, it's like
upset.
we're hiding parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not actually being true to ourselves because we're hiding that because we're keeping ourselves comfortable. We think we're keeping ourselves comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what happens a lot of the time. I speak to women in particular who are complaining about their husbands, but they're never saying anything. They're so happy in the moment just to be the people pleaser and that codependent person, because when they're afraid to rock the boat and how they're going to handle if they speak up, share their truth and put their foot down and say, hey, I actually don't like this, or I prefer this. So it's about learning how to handle these conversations, how to kind of move with a dance.
And because when they're thinking about what they want to say, the anxiety that's being built up is just going over the top. It's anxiety that's not required if they learn how to actually speak and have that conversation.
Yeah. Does this resonate with you guys? Does this make sense?
Making excuses. Yeah, absolutely.
Like put in the box if this is, are you loving this? Is this making sense?
Cool.
Awesome. So, and here's the thing. How you feel on the inside, keeping the peace at the cost of the happiness. Absolutely. Thank you, Lynn. And makes sense. Thank you, Nick. Here's the thing. How you feel on the inside doesn't stop or change just because you're not sharing it.
Yeah.
it just has this accumulative effect. It just builds up and builds up and builds up, and then you suddenly explode.
Yeah, and I know when I've wanted to have a conversation with Monica, this is probably going back a few years now, it was like this turmoil within me, and it was causing me anxiety. I was being silent, and it was just a bullshit way to live. And it was not a very healthy way for our relationship as a couple. It wasn't a healthy relationship for me.
And it wasn't just with me, it was with everyone.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I could tell, that's the thing. You can tell when someone isn't sharing it because they kind of get cranky, but they won't necessarily say what it is.
Yeah, correct.
So we're going to share some boundary blockers and misunderstanding of the purpose and the process of boundaries, because a lot of the time clients say that if they've asked a person to do something that they want them to do and they don't, they think that they've failed. But it's not necessarily about the other person doing something or doing what it is that you want. It's about asserting yourself and negotiating for your needs. It's sharing your thoughts. That is where the confidence grows, when you're actually asserting yourself and sharing your preferences. It is not about what the other person does and doesn't do. Because when you express your needs, that's where the healing starts to take place. That's where your self-esteem starts to grow. You're building up your own trust bank on what you say you're going to do, and your unconscious mind knows.
Yeah, it's your self-worth. It's building up your self-worth and knowing that you can do it and handle it, whatever the result may be.
Yeah. And it's just sharing your preferences with people is having good boundaries. Just sharing it. People don't necessarily need to agree, but it's how we build intimate relationships. Some boundaries are preferences. That's something that you it could go either way. That's just my preference. Some are desires, which are more important. And some are deal breakers. Like, there is just no way. It just does not work for me. And we just need to communicate them more regularly, so people know what your preferences are. Like when you started sharing with me, and you were calling me out on my bullshit as well, because by Mark not sharing his boundaries, I ended up walking all over him. And then he got even more angry. So then he would just be quiet and not say anything and cranky for 2 weeks.
And all of that with anxiety mixed in was creating the anxiety.
So Mark was feeling a lot of anxiety in that moment, and so was I, because I didn't know what was going on.
When you learn to put in the boundaries and speak in a great tone to get it across, it just creates that, as Monica said, trust, the inner trust in the self, in your trust bank. It also gives you that more courage that, I did that, and I was okay. And
it was okay.
It was okay. That's exactly right.
Because the more we do it, the more we are gathering reference points that it is okay. Like, we didn't blow up, we didn't die, and it's okay if it is a bit clunky in the beginning.
And you can also take it into other areas of your life.
Yeah.
Business, other relationships, family. You can actually
family is a big one.
And the way that reduces the anxiety is amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. We have so many experiences of that when we have shared our boundaries and our preferences around family, and they're never going to agree. They're just like, who can relate to that when they're sharing things with their family and they have a totally different opinion and they want to impose that on us? I'm looking over here because I can see you. So they want to impose that on us, but they're not agreeing, and then we get even more frustrated because we want them so badly to agree with us. That's what I felt I was doing. I was sharing so much with my family, and I was hoping and wishing and wanting for them to agree with me, because I was confusing them agreeing with me with their love, that they accepted and loved me. It's got nothing to do with it. It is okay if people don't agree with us, because it's more important that you are sharing your preferences and growing your own self-worth around what you believe matters to you. So I really hope that that's like, it's a mindset shift that you will make right now to make sure that you assert yourself more regularly to grow your self-worth. So how's this landing, guys?
We haven't gone too deep too early.
Yeah.
Is
Do
everyone
we,
going
do
okay?
we need like some wine or some chocolate or something?
If
or
you need to top up your drink,
do
do
we
it.
need to, like, maybe we should just play a song, just break it up. Makes sense. Yeah. Should we sort of hold back? Should we tone it down a little bit? Should we just like not go as deep, or or like where are you guys at? Should we keep going?
Yeah, cool. Getting a few nods. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you're not asleep yet?
So what are some...
Good, my dinner's fabulous, yes.
That's cool.
Fantastic.
So some key self-sabotaging behaviours that happen even before we go to have a boundary conversation.
Like, this is a big one. We're not even aware that we're doing this, and hence why we're not actually like following through with it. We minimize our own feelings, and we let people off the hook. You know, like, right, I'm gonna let them, just cut them some slack because I know they're having a rough time. So we are frustrated perhaps about maybe how a colleague or a partner or a family member or a friend is acting or not acting or doing or not saying or whatever it might be.
Or it also could be the they had a rough upbringing, so we give them a little bit of slack, or they had a massive car crash, we better not do that. And
they had a really bad day, you know. So before we even, we are frustrated, but we don't want to say anything because we're letting them off the hook. Because of whatever their experience. So that way we are avoiding and lets us off the hook too to have the conversation. Correct. Because we already decided before we go there that they've had a rough day or they've had a tough childhood or whatever, so that we don't have to have the conversation. And especially if you're highly empathetic, it can be so hard to have these conversations. Like, you almost feel what the other person is feeling. Like, who here can relate to that? Definitely. And it makes it even harder. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. Like, we don't want to be rejected.
No one does.
We don't want to be hurt, and we don't want to hurt other people. And the people pleasing syndrome is where you really put other people's needs before your own. Yeah, absolutely. So when we draw healthy boundaries, sometimes, just going to let you in a little secret, sometimes people are not going to like it. And it just has to be okay. Like, you are not that fragile, and neither are the other people. And usually neither are your relationships. And just
thinking about upsetting someone or not doing it, the inner conflict that has within ourselves, which is the low level anxiety.
And we can so relate.
And then you become avoidant. You don't go to social situations, and all those things happen.
And I used to have these situations happening often years ago at work. I would take on, so different from Mark, I would take on thinking that I needed to fix everything in everyone. I needed to do everything for everyone else. I needed to have this sense of control that I knew what was going to happen, so that I didn't make mistakes and that no one else made any mistakes. So it was really difficult to be around me because I could be a total bitch because I was so controlling. And if someone kind of rocked the boat, I would quickly pull them in line so that my flaws weren't exposed.
Correct.
And it was exhausting. And the more the pressure cooker kind of kept bubbling, the more things to do I had, the more anxious I became because I wasn't setting boundaries. I didn't say, hey, can you do this task for me? Or actually, I'm struggling with this part. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Or I need some help over here. Or can you explain this to me? I just did everything for everyone. Who here can relate to that, by the way? I needed to control everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fucking exhausting.
It is very exhausting.
Yeah. So we don't, like, by asserting our boundaries, by me learning and getting help with this and relieving the fear that I had, that I wasn't going to be good enough if things went to shit.
And it's about doing baby steps to resolve this,
to
do better.
First, we've got to trust that we can handle whatever comes our way. But I needed help with that, because that was all those unconscious, like we were saying before, childhood wounds that we were carrying with us, the beliefs that have been passed down from our parents, that I was carrying from my parents, that they tried so hard not to put down, like pass down to us. But if no one stops that cycle, we continue pass it on to our parents. So just keep that in mind, that relationships aren't that fragile and we can speak up. Because conflict, yes, it is scary, but not speaking up is scarier.
Yeah, nicks on the heck, yes. Yeah. So it resonates.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the third self-sabotaging, that was tricky. Behavior is that which most people don't talk about. It's a really big one with boundaries. And I have absolutely done this a lot, as I just shared, is not accepting another person's no. Yeah,
because quite often someone can say no and you become a little bit frazzled by it. Suddenly it brings on that anxiety.
It's the people pleasers.
Yeah.
Everyone who's people pleaser out there, they want to make sure that they come up with a solution. Yeah. I used to be the solutions queen.
Yeah, and we're not respecting other people's boundaries.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
So we want to fix everything for everyone else. We have solutions, you don't want them to make the mistake that you've made. You have ideas, you give advice whether they're asking for it or not. And this is a really big one. And people feel hurt.
Absolutely.
When someone says no.
Yeah.
And it's stepping on someone else's boundary. Like, who here have done that? Giving people advice all the time and trying to control other people. Yeah. So we want to fix others and we know what's best for them, so we control them unconsciously. Just want to share that no one is doing this on purpose. Everyone wants what's best for others. We're all doing our best with what we've got. Yeah.
And it's unconsciously that people are doing this. It's not a conscious thing. We're doing it unconsciously from our patterns we've seen from our parents, where was it?
Yeah, we're all doing our best with what we know. And then the last one, this is a funny one that I've learned over the years to be very comfortable with. Feeling the need to fill an awkward silence. I was the queen of this and I could never have silence. I used to feel compelled to fill the space in a conversation, right? So if I would consider any sort of awkward pause, if you're at a party or with an acquaintance, I would always make sure that I fill that space. It's almost like this need to control, just to keep the conversation going. Otherwise, I have like this really awkward silence. Like, who has ever felt like that they can't have an awkward silence? Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
But if we shift our mindset instead, and if we don't have to be 100% responsible for the whole conversation. If we can just take like a deep breath and know that maybe that pause, there's a possibility for the other person to share something with you.
Power pause.
Yeah.
It's like a power pause.
Yeah. That person has just allowing the other person and resisting that urge to fill the space, you know, for the people that we love.
And they say there's so much power in the space when we actually leave it open. There's so much in that, but so often we try to fill it.
Yeah. So please pop in the chat box below. What are your key takeaways so far? What are you loving? What are you loving? What are you learning? What's resonating?
And this is all unconscious behavior that shaped and protect us in our childhood. You know, they served us then, but they're not serving us when we're adults. It gets in our way now.
Because these patterns are unconscious, like I said. They're in our conscious mind. Like we call them the basement. Asking for help is a big one for me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I can so relate to that. So these patterns are unconscious in our unconscious mind. Loving the identifying on the issue is definitely the first step to fixing any issue. I think I would like to know more strategies on how to be assertive and knowing where to draw the line. Thank you, Adam. Yes.
Yeah. That was a big game changer for me, Adam, in regards to having the courage to try all these strategies or learning the strategies, then having the courage to implement them. Because like we've mentioned before, you know, we want to be liked, we want to be loved, we want to belong. And I was scared shitless to upset or do anything out of the ordinary. And yet
not being liked.
And yet it was just a human thing to do, just to ask for what I want to, my own boundaries.
We're going to share a few.
Yeah, thank you, Shireen. Yeah.
I can relate to all of them. Saying yes to everyone, taking control of everything, not accepting a no. Yeah,
and that was exactly that's Monica there. That was Monica there. Yeah. Exactly that.
Absolutely. And we are going to share some ways of saying no and asserting ourselves.
Yeah.
And it comes down to, we can have all the tools in the world, but if we're not having a go, if we're not having a go of implementing them, having the courage to know that it's going to be okay, that we can handle it, that we're not going to blow up. Speak up about my boundaries at the time in the space of love. This allows others to get to know me and my needs. Beautiful, Lynn. So as I said, these patterns are in what we like to call the basement of our minds. And we need to sort of dust off these boxes and see what's in there. You know, what did we learn? Like what are our boundary blueprints? It's like incredibly unique to us individuals. No one has the exact same boundary blueprint, but it's really vital to know what is in here in the boxes.
Of the minds.
So I want to share a little metaphor with you. If you can do a little technical swap.
And hopefully this comes up. It does.
So what if the change you are avoiding is the one that gives you wings? So we're talking about a metaphor about a butterfly and a caterpillar. I just love this.
I was in the run that down. Yep. Let me do my technical stuff here again. We're back.
So with the butterfly, like often when we're in the old world, so if we're thinking about, you know, where you might have been before we started this masterclass, just in awareness, or where you are before you start and learn something new. For example, the Wizard of Oz, like the old world in black and white, and then the new world when she came, you know, and she found the Tin Man and the bear, and like, but it was all within her already. So when we are in the old world, we feel like we are the caterpillar. We are stuck inside this cocoon, and there's so much pressure to get out of it. And there's pressure on staying in the caterpillar because everyone else is a caterpillar. And we were born this way, you know, and it's what we know, right? And just being a caterpillar like everyone else. But it's up to us to decide whether we break through the barrier and allow ourselves to break free and become the butterfly that we truly are. And no one can help us to break through. No one can help us to break through that cocoon. Only we can. And the way you do that is from the inside out. So a couple of suggestions on what, how you can say no, especially if someone is not accepting the first no, is, and we're going to send you this as well, guys. We're going to send you this after, so there's no like rush to write them down. Yes,
I'm going to send through a document at the end of this masterclass with suggestions for saying no, because a lot of people struggle with that, you know, to say no to people. So some of the suggestions are, you know, no thanks, just straight up, no thanks. You can say that. Or it may be, oh, no, thank you. Thank you for thinking of me, though.
I'm going to pass.
Yeah.
Or no, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And if someone says why, you can say, it's not my thing. Yeah. And I know this sounds scary to say because this is what everyone thinks, but is trusting that when you say it and you've done it a few times, people actually get to know that these are your boundaries. And this is what, for example, Adam says. So this is what Shireen says. And this is what Bruce says. This is what they do. And if we never assert ourselves, people are always going to know us for what we're not doing.
Yeah.
But when we start asserting ourselves, because we came across this when we started asserting ourselves.
Absolutely. When people would invite me to dinner or something, and I didn't feel like going to dinner, I'd already had a big day or I'd had a big week, I would say, look, no thanks, mate. Can we do it next week? And first of all, they were like, what do you mean?
Because you usually would have gone, sure.
Sure, at the expense of myself. So when I was actually able to say, oh, no, thank you, look, let's book in next week, they got used to it. I didn't do it all the time because there were times I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. However, it gave me the strength and courage and reduced anxiety, where I was all cool with that. And they were all cool with that. It's very powerful.
Yeah, to be able to actually say, you know, we can buy ourselves time as well. You know, I'll get back to you. You know, I need to think about it. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'll let you know. Because that way you can buy yourself some time as well. So we don't have to be so forward and bold, and it doesn't have to come across as if we're rude, because that's what most people are worried about. Excuse me, that we're going to sound rude when we say no. But I'm sure who here knows of someone who says no with ease?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you accept their no, because that is just, it says no with ease, and it's also a nice, friendly person, not necessarily a rude,
and you actually, abrupt no. And you actually admire them. There's like, fuck, I wish I could do that. I know there's been heaps of times where I was like, wow, how they do that? I could never do that. Now I can do that. And there's that part of you admire them for being able to do that.
So just take that into account when that is you about to say no, that think about these people that you know say no and said no to you many times in different ways, and you didn't actually feel what's the word? No, or rejected. You just went, okay, well, that's just their preference, or that just not today. And keep that in mind when you're about to say it, because we feel like people are going to attack us most of the time when we say no, that there is this fear that's, you know, but they're the boxes in the basement here that come in. And in the moments, like, have you ever felt like you've just turned like 10 or 5 years old? You know, it's like it's happening right now. You're like that child again. That is the triggering part. That is the unconscious mind. And that's the experiences from our childhood. And that is what we help people unpack and also to let go of, not necessarily the experience themselves, but how we relate to them so that they don't feel triggered. They can just go, oh yeah, no, I don't need to please people, It's in the boxes in the basement and the experience in the past.
Yeah.
Now, as adults, this is still playing out and mirroring the experience. So there's a lot of unpacking that needs to happen and fully understanding our boundary blueprint, because the biggest block is not being able to say no and stick to it. It's in your blueprint, in your unconscious mind.
And I love what you've written there, Kev. Less of the no sides, great discipline, great boundaries they've put in, and we still love them and like them.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And you can think like that about yourself. Just keep reminding yourselves that other people do. Some people can't say it with ease, like they just blurt it out and they sound angry. But it's some people, just remind yourself, are able to do this and they're not upsetting anyone. So why can't you?
So just imagine being able to say no to someone or something, putting in boundaries without having the anxiety prior. That anxiety of how am I going to tell them that? How am I going to say that?
And we are not always nailing this.
No.
No one is perfect.
No.
Because there's always the next level of
Correct.
a challenge that's coming across. So we have to remind ourselves as well that actually draw on our own experiences well, what is this? Who's this Godzilla coming out?
The monkey mind.
What are we afraid of now?
Absolutely.
Because it is what we witnessed growing up. We see this as desirable behaviors, what our parents are doing. What foster parents, mom, dad, siblings, how they interacted around this is what we take on. And that's what happens. It just gets passed down over generations. So, we've got to get on to the unconscious material. And there's pain, this having a solid knowledge about how to draw boundaries. And the reason this is so important to understand to set boundaries, because if you don't understand how to set them and stand firm, is what you're doing is that you are bypassing what you need to do in order to reduce anxiety and have healthy boundaries. Yeah. And some of our clients who've done this literally have created instant results as a result of learning how to do it. Now, you might be uncertain around exactly what it is that you need to do around this, right? But that uncertainty doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you need to find out how. All you need to do is find out how.
Yeah. So I'm going to share a couple of testimonials from our clients, just to put this into perspective. So let me do my techie stuff again here, see if I can share screen. And let's see how we're going. And we're over there. Let me see where we're at here.
Can everyone see the screen again as we are being techie and swapping and shifting?
Yeah. So the testimonial.
Can everyone see our screen? Yep, awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Cool. So a testimonial there from a previous client. And as he started off there, you don't know what you don't know. He knew he was underachieving and he knew he was carrying emotional baggage, but what he didn't know was where and how deeply rooted in his subconscious these negative emotions were hiding. And I suppose that's what we're talking about in regards to how deeply this stuff is.
And we've got one from Anna. Just help create the shift that she thought was not possible, because this is what most people think, that they are broken or that they need to be fixed, that no one is broken and no one needs to be fixed. It's just shifting the beliefs that we have from our childhood and the emotional triggers that comes with it. And when we can shift them, we have a totally new world.
Yeah.
We see things differently, we experience things differently, we can minimize a lot of our fears, and we can step up to new levels and take on new responsibilities, new challenges, new adventures, new relationships, new life.
New life. We promised you at the start that we'd give you an opportunity at the end of this class to book in a free 45-minute strategy session with either one of us to talk about where you are right now and where you want to be, and what the gaps are and some steps you can take to move forward. So pop in the chat box if you'd like to book in a session, and we'll make contact with you within the next 24 hours to book that in. So chuck it, if you want to book in a free 45-minute session, chuck in the chat box and we can have a look.
And like we said, it's a win-win. It is just sharing where you're at, and if we will find out quite quickly if we're not a match, and we'll let you know, or if we are, we'll let you know too. Either or, you will walk away with something.
I can find the chat box. So my technical Bruce, cheers, mate. Awesome.
Okay, to the bigger.
Nick, certainly, mate. Done.
I can relate to the bigger baggage. Yeah, thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be in contact and we'll book that in. I'd love to have a chat to Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Good stuff, Adam. Good stuff. So we'll share some key learnings, if I can organise my screen.
I think you've done well tonight.
With my, yes, that would be great, Mon. Awesome. So now my technical stuff got it worked out. What are some key learnings you'd like to share? You can either unmute yourself if you're comfortable with that, or if you'd like to throw it in the chat box.
Yes, what are your key takeaways? What did you love? What did you learn? We would love to know, so we can also improve.
And if you're comfortable taking yourself off mute, go for it.
We'll just wait for them to get onto their keyboards.
I'll just speak. Monica knows me, and as someone that's like in the helping professions, I've just come to the realization that I really struggle to ask for help myself. You know, I put on that persona of having it all together, and since leaving work to start my own business, I've realized that I've spent the last almost 15 years thinking about other people's lives, you know, at least 10 other people's lives other than my own. And now I'm just starting to go, well, what do I like? Like, who am I after all this? Yeah.
That matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And the best part, Nick, is when we have the awareness, we can do something about it, because we don't know what we don't know, and neither did we.
No, and it's so cool when we do. Thank you so much for sharing. When we go on that journey of like, what else have I got within me? What else can I do? What else is out there? What other level can I take myself to? It's exciting because it's the unknown and
an unlimited potential. That's what we found. Like, we have absolutely completely changed our lives in the last 8 years or so since we started this journey. And we are not the same people anymore. We still have fears, we still got lots of shit going on, like no one's got their stuff together ever. That would be boring. But the resources we now have to shift things when we do get in a funk, because we still do from time to time, and just upgrading our thinking. Like they say, another level, another devil, which I might have shared already, but I think that is so true. That you have so much awareness already, Nick, from what you just shared, and then just get to the next level of having that awareness makes all the difference.
Yeah, it does. And I love what you've written there, Kev, you know, the breathing techniques to reduce stress and anxiety. Absolutely, mate. There's such a cool little technique, and quite often we get caught up in everyday stuff, life, business, family, and we forget about those simple things. So great reminder, awesome stuff. And that's awesome as well, Adam. Really like the identifying of the issues, especially in a group setting, and making it relatable, and see how everyone else has the same issues.
So comforting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's where everyone's got their shit going on. There is no such thing as perfect. That's what it's about.
And buying yourself time, really use that. Buy yourself time, so that, because that's what people say yes or not no, whatever it might be, in the moment, because they think they have to come up with answers like this.
Yeah.
You don't.
No.
You don't.
Getting
rid of the baggage, more breathing, not blaming others for being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I love that, Bruce.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's when we can begin to own our own stuff.
Yeah,
that's massive.
That's awesome.
And a massive thing to be able to do that. Love the breathing technique. Just realised I was words for the pause. I have no idea why I've been waiting on
controlling stuff and saying no, getting better at this, so we'll keep going.
Thank you so much, Shane, for sharing. And it's so important when we gain this awareness about what we're doing. We don't know we're doing it. It's unconscious. It just happens.
Awareness is so key.
We've been
saying no to myself. Stop. Take an hour out. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Powerful stuff.
We'd like to acknowledge and thank you all for being a part of this tonight. It's been fantastic. We've really enjoyed rocking out with you all, and trust you guys and girls have enjoyed it as well. We'll be in contact, and Monica will be in contact.
We'll send through the strategies,
the free giveaways.
Yeah,
I'm going to send your way. I'll send that through within the next 24 hours. So it'll be the suggestions for saying no. There's also a self-assessment boundary quiz in there where you can really actually dig deep into your boundaries and where are your boundaries at. So we'll send that across. It's been really cool.
Yeah, thank you for being so open and just hanging out with us, and as we are geeking out with that techie stuff. We, normally in this, before COVID, this was the thing, but now we're getting used to it, and we're really loving this space, and this is sort of where we're heading. So thanks for just having fun with us.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. So have an awesome night, and we'll be in contact very soon.
See you, everyone.
Ciao.